good stuff, but I'm going to kind of talk about a performance plan, things that have worked for me and my students and some of the college golfers that I've been fortunate enough to coach. Going to be a lot of ideas here, a bunch of slides, things that stick out to me that I want to share with you that I'll give credit to other people for, and just some cool things that I've come across and how I've formulated my plans, and it'll be basically a structure for every player, but highly individualistic for each person. So move along. Some of the things I want to share is how I learn. I owe so much to so many people for the things that I've learned. Just last week, just out of the industry, I spent a half day with the guy in charge of training the dogs for the Border Patrol to detect explosives, currency, human smuggling, and drugs, and I thought the way they train those things was impressive. So I just bounce around and learn from so many people. A lot of people in this room, always aware of what's trending. Like this GOTA presentation was amazing. I go home and nerd out on that for a while and take advantage of all these opportunities like we're here today. I'm curious. I'm never intimidated or threatened by anything that comes across me. I just go with it and learn all I can, my own experiences. Aside from being the director of instruction at Rudy Country Club, I also coached the Division II golf team. Don't know how I ended up doing that. It was interim, and now 7 years later, it's been a blessing because I learned so much. I'm such a much better golf instructor dealing with men and women in college, and it's definitely a holistic deal with them. So, I found myself early on, I wasn't a very good instructor. I felt it was just like hour after hour on the range, logging in lessons. The students would go, they'd take their lesson, I'd give them some drills, they'd go play, come back. It was always technical talk. It was just, a golf lesson. And I wasn't getting out there and watching them compete. I didn't go to tournaments as often as I wanted to. I just found with my lesson schedule that I wasn't out on the golf course with them, doing playing lessons and things like that. So I started leaving things out, like strategy and stuff we heard from Scott today, and mental game and fitness aspects, and all the other things that are involved with performance that I was just leaving out by giving simple technical lessons, hour after hour. So I started to really think about the needs of the person in front of me. How was I creating the environments to get what I wanted out of the player, or what they wanted out of our relationship? Was it swing mechanics? What did they need? Did they need improve biomechanics, some speed, strategy, mindsets or self-talk, balance in life? I just started brainstorming and writing down as much as I could about what I was doing and what I felt my students really needed and what they were being vocal about and what they wanted from me. So I feel like our role as coaches is to find what pieces in overall performance that need adjustment, training, and monitoring. And that started getting me down the path of creating a plan. So I came up with this, and this is interesting that we're sitting here because was it, I think Austin Country Club, was it 2017, Scott? Teaching and Coaching Summit? 2017, 18. I sat at Austin Country Club, the Teaching and Coaching Summit. We had Jason Bay's coach come up and introduce a concept that I really learned a lot from that day. And I was able to go home and kind of think about that and kind of put my own spin on it, and basically stole his idea and just renamed it. And I emailed him and said thanks and asked him a few questions, and I was off and running with my plan. Let's see here. Oh. Scott. Battery die? Okay. So talking about the summit, many in this room, other coaches, instructors, the collegiate and some of the mini tour guys that I work with all influenced how I put together this plan. I tested the plan. Before I get into the plan, I want to talk about how I tested it. Women and men's golf team, in my own little Division II world there in Laredo, and the country club really just had a lot of activity, but in terms of junior golf, nobody was really going to the next level and getting opportunities to play college. It's just, really wanted to see what we can do with this plan. Some of the results of the plan in my own little world down there in Laredo, we've had some All-Americans. Currently, we had a conference champion last year. Currently have a #1 ranked male golfer in the country. Tons of academic All-Americans, which the plan really supports, all of that, and some postseason appearances. Got as low as 15th in the country last year with the women's golf team. So, the Laredo Country Club, we've had 12 plus kids sign on to go play at the next level in 7 years that I've kind of played with this plan, and a bunch of other stuff. 2 U.S. amateur appearances, which is a great story because the individual that played in those back-to-back U.S. amateurs came into college averaging 77. So in less than 2 years, about 2 years, just turned it around and was able to start playing some really good golf. So when I sit with everybody, it's basically you're the owner of 4 banks, financial institution banks. So we got the strategy, the mental, the physical, and the technical. For these banks to survive, you've got to make more deposits than withdrawals every single day. So, commitment, dedication, we strive to make the deposits every day. In a perfect world, all 4 of your banks are thriving and your 4 banks are full of money, basically. So, within these key areas, we need to, many things go into these 4 banks, which we'll get into. But the concept is small daily gains in all things in each of the 4 key areas will have to some big gains. That led me down another path. These small gains, I wanted to research that, and I came across David Brailsford aggregation of marginal gains concept. Many of you probably heard of that, but I really looked into it, bought all the books, read all the stuff. And this was interesting. The British cycling team was mediocre at best. No medals, not a lot of stuff going on with them. They hired this coach, David Brailsford. Basically identified key areas of cycling performance for their team. Everything from socks they wore, what clothing they wore, seats, handlebars, how they measured nutrition, all kinds of stuff. They just, no stone was left unturned. And from 2008 to 2012, 60% of the gold medals were from from the British cycling team. In a 10-year span, the record speaks for itself. 178 world championships, tons of medals, just a crazy improvement. And when I read that, I just dug into this concept. What goes in each bank? So in the technical bank, it's stuff that you want to monitor with your players, face angle stuff, whether it's TrackMan stuff or setup or path or whatever it is that you're working with your student. The coach and the player will determine what's important in each bank, monitor it daily, weekly, monthly. I sit with them and we take a moment to map it all out. Something's going on with this. Missing something. Sorry, excuse me 1 second. It's kind of missing a bunch of stuff. Mm-hmm. Sorry about that. So 1% better every day. So in all 4 banks, when you identify all the key things that you want in each bank, you strive to improve each of those things 1% every day. Each bank 1% every day. There's math to that. You know, I often hear people say, well, how did that kid get so good? Last year we saw him play at so-and-so event, and, you know, we didn't see much, and this year it's a totally different golfer. Well, you know, the separation doesn't happen in a week, a month, 2 months. Over time, 1% better every day, you start to see major separation after a year. So if you've got a program, or you got some kids, or you got a college team or a high school team, you know, 1% every day, all 4 banks, the things that you've identified, you'll start to see separation. In my case, I've seen separation 6, 8, 10 months, you know, a year. Start to see big things happening. And conversely, you can go the other way, 1% worse every day. You know, you can really see some bad patterns start. So basically, it's kind of funny. When I sit with a kid, I've got this big mirror, and we just get dry erase, you know, markers, and start mapping things out and putting it together. You know, nice little quote there, but it's just like a mess. It looks like a mess, but we start to piece it together, and we'll get into the 4 banks. We'll dive in a little bit there. But anyways, so mental game, I kind of look at it a little bit different. What I've been successful with is not any strategies or coping mechanisms or anything. It's just more about balance. Like we've got these pieces here, and when those things are in line, you get more out of the player. Performance improves. When we're out on the course, it's as simple as, I keep it super simple, it's process over outcome. If you're out there, you know, we're trying to figure out what our target is, like whether it's the decade or go through the process of executing that golf shot, and not really worrying about what the consequence might be or letting fear creep in or anything. So process over outcome helps us a lot out there. You know, there's chaos out there, as you know. We all play golf, so you know that. You know, I just kind of do nothing, continue the process, no strategies, no fixes, simply breathe. You don't input more for the mind to do. Let your mind reset itself. So that just works. It's super simple. It works. And I'm just sharing some things that go into the mental bank for some of my players. It's definitely different things for each player, but here's some things that have worked, these mindsets. So I like this little slide here. Everything is temporary. Motion, thoughts, people, and scenery. Do not become attached. Just flow with it. So let things go. Let things pass. You know, you might make a par on the next hole and stop the chaos, and things like that have worked. So there's really no strategies or mechanisms that I work with my players. Another good quote that I share with a lot of the kids and players: golf is uncertain and uncomfortable at times. We strive to be comfortable with that reality. So we know it's coming. We know the chaos will be there. Just do nothing. Just process, execute your golf shots. You'll make some pars. You'll crawl out. Right? I've heard it all. ABC, 1, 2, 3. All these great things that people market and teach, but I actually feel like it just adds more for them to think about when we get into some of these mental strategies that they go out and learn and stuff. So I just dial it back and keep it really simple. Physical bank, really important one for me. Here's some of the key pieces that are involved in our plans. Movement patterns, we heard a lot about that today. Some screens, mobility, biomechanics. All these pieces we play around with when we're coming up with our plans. You know, for the everyday club member, I still use a lot of TPI screening. You know, the guys that shoot mid-80s, 90s. This seems to be pretty helpful for me. I've been using this for years. Do some basic screens, find out what we can do, get into the corrective. You recognize that gym and that trainer, Pam Owens. So I send a lot of players to go work with people. Pam's been a huge help, and you know, I recently, you know, some of the stuff we saw, I was asking about the 3D and stuff. I went to a stretch lab. I didn't feel good one day, and I walked into this place, and here in San Antonio, actually, and they put me through this process, and they started pointing out all these things that were wrong with me according to this thing. So they put me on the corrective plan, and I instantly felt great. So real big on the screening, first of all, like the stuff you saw with Goda, and then getting on the corrective plans for all the players. That helps me with all the other banks at the technical. Hydration is huge, especially like in the college world with 36 whole days. I love Longhorn Fuel. They've got some good posts out there and a lot of little formulas and stuff you can do pre-round, during, post-round. This type of stuff has really helped us make some good decisions, stay in the game and perform. I outsource a lot of my nutritional stuff to Pamela in Houston. Been doing that for about 8 years now, and she's been great. And one of the things that she added for my club members, or I use with a lot of my club members, is the poor fueling cycle. You know, eat and drink poorly, you know, loss of focus, and it's just this vicious cycle of the everyday golfer they go through, whether they're drinking beer, smoking cigars. You know, they start making doubles and triples. So I'll sit with my members and go through what they're doing on the golf course, how much they're drinking, how much they're eating, what they're, you know, when was the last time they were assessed and worked out, and the physical is huge for the everyday member. You know, they in the past they would just come for lessons. I'd help them straighten out their slice a little bit or change ball flight, and that was it. But really, the high scores were coming from, you know, the 11 beers they had in 6 holes and smoking cigars. So, you know, it was something new for them, but it's really effective for the everyday member that you see. I told Pam I would put this up. I love this. She has a pick 3 system for meals and snacks. There's a link down there. It's a free little system that she's got, and some information there that you can get. Fuel up for performance. Check that out. I highly encourage it. The pick 3 system that I've been using for years that she shared with me. Basically, pick a protein, a fat, and a carb. Mix those up, and you get optimal levels throughout your round. I mean, it's good stuff. I see a lot of my players gravitate towards a certain thing, whether it's a bar that's high in sugar, you know, all this kind of stuff that's out there now. You know, I like to keep it simple. We stick to this. At first, it's tough to get kids to buy into something like this, but then they see the difference over time. So the nutrition on the golf course is huge. Then I move into something that I completely never thought about. And the last couple of years, you know, in the college world, and even some of the members of my club don't get enough sleep on weekends. They try to show up and perform on Sunday morning and go to work. So sleep is huge. You can see some of the effects. This is a slide from Longhorn Fuel again. Things I never thought of, like avoid drinking large amounts of fluids in the hours leading up to bed. You know, I usually, kids are, you know, chugging balls of water right before they go to bed, and, you know, lose quality sleep, it suffers a little and stuff like that. But another slide from Rosentrain that caught my eye last year. Really cool stuff on how to improve sleep, like sleep in a dark room. Started doing that. I'm getting my 6, 7, 8, 9 hours now sometimes. Meditate and breathe. You know, Scott Fawcett talked a lot about meditation. Really quiets the mind. I don't know about you guys, but I get home and I crack open a laptop and my mind's racing. It's tough to shut it down. So there's a lot of little tips here. Even on the way home, I'll get a cup of coffee, and that affects me. And, you know, couldn't imagine what it does to a lot of our players as well. So sleep is huge for us. It's really helped out. I've been seeing a big difference when I get people to understand sleep. I love push carts. Going back to the assessments and stuff like that, I see a lot of kids carry for long hours, and I'm starting to see weird stuff happening with injuries, tweaks, lower back stuff, a lot of imbalancing. So I love push carts, especially on 36-hole days. Club members and college kids and high school kids, for the most part, don't like to use push carts, but there is a huge difference. I keep part of the thing that goes in my physical bank is constantly communicating with my training staff at the university and our director of fitness at our club, and I monitor injuries and things they go into to talk to them about. And a lot of them are minor things that I can directly trace back to carrying the bag improperly. So there's a lot of info on that too through TPI that you can read up on. It's really good. So push carts have been a big help for me and my players. Recovery and injury prevention. I like this slide here from Dr. Rose. Lower back problems are usually not lower back problems. They are often hip and thoracic spine problems. But what I heard today was it could even go back down into your feet. So, you know, when I in the past, I had no idea what to tell a kid when they told me they had a lower back pain or go to the doctor. And now, with a lot of the things that we're seeing, with proper hydration, nutrition, sleep, stretching, range of motion exercises, therapy, deep tissue massage, meditation, I'm starting to see less people with problems. And from what we learned today, things that people are coming up with, we're going to get a lot better at this type of stuff. You don't want to play through discomfort, so these things have been really important to us. Love this one. Becoming a physically prepared golfer is the result of a lot of simple habits done consistently, deceptively simple actions that accumulating the benefits over time. Don't mistake simplicity for ineffectiveness. Again, that aggregation of marginal gains. So, you know, it all adds up at the end of the day. Strategy bank. Really important, obviously, from what we heard today with Scott. You know, the golf course, understanding your game, skill set, dispersion, decade, you know, use a lot of decade, strokes gained, wind charts, yardage books, putting strategies, and tools like aim point, practice rounds. I have this thing where I tell all the players, we need to win the practice round. We need to prepare better than anybody out here today. Really important. It's really hard to get dialed in practice rounds, and they're really important. Tee shot strategy. One of the things that I talked to is some stuff that Scott, you know, obviously we learned from him. The driver, basically it comes down to no penalty shots off the tee. It's, you know, you got, look at what hazard to hazard is, and make a decision whether it's a driver or not. And if it's not a driver, how far does it leave you if you hit a wood, and just keep it simple and avoid penalties off the tee. It's amazing what that does for you. So in strokes gained, I don't know, I kind of guessed a little bit. Did I hit my tee shot 275 plus with no penalty? Probably didn't lose or gain, right? And did I hit my tee shot 225 with no penalty? Probably didn't lose or gain. Some of the approach shot strategy stuff, I have to find different ways to talk about approach shot strategy. We can get as detailed as the decade, you know, and to dive deep in that, and some people don't respond well to that, so I just kind of rephrase it sometimes. Fat side, slightly away from trouble. And they start looking at things and looking at in their practice rounds what they can do, if they have pin sheets or pin locations. For little kids, you know, I've got a 9-year-old girl, you know, she kind of gave me this idea. She says, well, these are green lights, these are red lights. The red lights, she's going to stop and think about where she wants the ball to end up. And the yellow lights are kind of like, I can kind of get a little closer to the hole location. You know, stuff like that. So all my performance plans it's common language for someone that's 8 years old or an All-American in college. So that's kind of the way I design it, where we're all communicating the same way. This little stoplights for the kids. This is a picture of what the decade, I believe it's the decade strokes gained. This is one of my players from a while back, a couple years ago. So some people like to see this type of, you know, stuff to improve their strategy. Other kids, you know, I think one of the arguments was getting them to input all the data. Some people will, some people won't. So this is kind of what it looks like when they do track their ball position on the course and enter it at the end of the day. Kind of a tough deal because you get home from a round of golf, and if you're a competitive golfer, you've got to enter all this stuff in the app. But we get some good feedback, and I use this a lot for strategy. This was pretty cool. I thought I'd throw this up there. This was one of Scott's. I choose to look at Scott's more positive stuff on Twitter. I'm screenshot any of the facts and wars or whatever he goes through. But this was pretty cool, I thought. I mean, you know, he kept his approach shot on the fat side of the hole 50 out of 67 times, 70%. Really hadn't seen anything like that since Tiger Woods. So there's tremendous benefit to the decade system, I think. You know, I've been using it for a long time. The kids that buy in, the players that buy in, even the people at my club that, you know, go from 80 to 74 have all bought into approach shot strategy. So that's a big part of our plan. And you saw this earlier. This is pretty cool. We use this a lot. It's amazing with what happens when you turn your double bogeys into bogeys, and some of those bogeys into pars. I think it's the low-hanging fruit for me. The no three putts is huge too. That's kind of what I see from somebody that's struggling. Is a lot of three putts and a lot of high numbers. If you clean those up a little bit, that's a big part of our strategy. So we talk about the Tiger 5 all the time, and I got this from Scott, obviously, at Awesome Country Club the last time he put this up, and stole that from him for sure. Some of the resources that we use for some of the more competitive players are, obviously, they've got some good books out there. Some are still legal, I think. So, you know, we got everybody familiar with Strackline and putt view and all that kind of stuff. You got elevation changes. One of my favorites is the wind chart. It's amazing. I get a guy, a typical member, who's struggling, scores a little bit higher. Laredo's really windy. You played Laredo Country Club?
Oh, yeah.
Many times. It's swirling, coming from all over the place. And more often than not, before even getting on the range and working on any type of swing mechanics or anything like that, I go out on the course and use these wind charts. So there's a tailwind, give you some distance adjustments, and end up scoring lower. They just don't hit enough club, you know, sometimes into the wind and stuff like that. So those are tremendous help on the college scene. Those things are amazing too. I don't know where I got that, but one of my players showed that to me about a year ago, and I share that with everybody. If anybody wants a copy of that, email me and I'll send one over. You know, I wanted to share this. I got this off of Twitter from Penick, from Marty Jertson. I just love what you can get into, man. Taking a deep dive in the wind, temperature, elevation, all kinds of stuff going on here. I don't know enough about this, but I wanted to share this because there's just a whole lot that you can get into and just cut fractions of strokes out, you know, just by making better decisions, by understanding your environment. I'm sure some of you guys that have played for a living in the room have messed around with stuff like this with the caddies and stuff, but there's definitely a lot going on that I want to learn more about, and it's just stuff that you can't leave out in the strategy bank, that we sit and just brainstorm what we can get better at every day. Moving on to the technical, which is what everybody seems to gravitate to. Everyone I teach wants to just focus in on the golf swing, and there's just so much more. But when we do get to work on the technical bank, my big question is, where are we in the development process? I love this image. It's Tiger all the way through. You know, I just, for all you instructors in the room, we all know that we're teaching this guy way different than that guy. And every year, my players change, they grow, you know, it's obviously in the growth process, there's so much going on that you've got to constantly monitor and change things and adjust things, meanwhile staying on task on what we want to achieve in the long term. So some of the pieces that we play with in terms of the technical, low point, strike point, face angle, all the stuff that you would get on a normal launch monitor, these are the pieces we play with to start putting together ball flight. One of my favorite images here, Tiger Woods, is Tiger Slam irons. I really look at, obviously, face contact, super important. I feel like the everyday club member, when I simply spray their face, is all over the place. So, you know, kind of work on that a little bit and what goes into that. And they end up hitting it further, better contact, better flight, all that kind of stuff. So these are little things that we focus on with the everyday player. I think I got this from Ping. I was kind of worried about that. If it's somebody else's, please let me know. But I see this a lot, and just how important it is where you hit it on the face. I really monitor that and build around delivery of the club and where they're striking it and improve impact. So questions to better understand those pieces. What was the ball flight? What was going on at impact to create that flight? What did the body do to the club? Or how did the club movement affect the body? Kind of go back and forth on that. How did they use the ground? And I just start, these are kind of the questions to start putting things together for me. If I do have any slight preferences, I love delivery. I feel like I'm a delivery coach, and I'm going to do everything I can to improve somebody's delivery. In turn, obviously, improves the impact interval. So I thought these were pretty cool. There's Chuck's delivery. I think it's gotten a lot better over the years. And I actually, Trump has a pretty decent delivery actually lately, so I thought that was funny. Not a fan of either one of their off games, but I thought they were cool. Once we get the pieces in order, we figure out the game plan and the technical bank, and we know what we're going to work towards. There's some people that are very low tech in my world, and there's some that want the high tech stuff. So 3D devices, motion capture systems, low tech training, we'll get into some of that. Examples of low tech, M-line boards. If anybody knows Scott Calix, I love that board. It's so cool. I mean, you can achieve the same thing on a wall, but it's kind of tough. But these boards, rope swings, I'll show you some examples of those. These are two that have been highly effective for me with the everyday golfer, even high-skilled golfers as well. So M-line board, basically a couple 2x4s, I guess it is, and a little board there with a little pad. And basically what this achieves is low point alignments. So at low point, you will see, oh, my video didn't come out. That's all right. Well, you'll see what the board will develop, and you see in the greatest players, once you see separation, it's a 2D thing, so you face on, the club head, inline, the shaft with the hands, lead hit, outside the left shoulder. And when you start to see that alignment, you start to see some really good impact numbers and consistent ball flight, and better contact and things like that. So it's just as simple as, hey, your technical bank today is, let's do 100 M-line boards, and that's our technical work for the day. Super simple, I love self-organizing drills. It just gets things in place, and it's really effective for the everyday golfer and the competitive golfer, as I mentioned. Oh, there you go. See if I can get that to play. No. Can we get that to play?
Try to go back one more time, Rudy. Yeah, one more time.
I really wanted to see that. Sorry, guys. Scott should be able to play.
We're on the test. There we go.
Well, if it doesn't play, it's Tiger at the Open. Huh? No, this is good. So he's at the Open, and he's basically swinging into the bag and kind of in the same position as if he was on an M-line board. Really cool video. Typical improvements that I see with the M-line board. Here's a kid. There's that separation there. Low point. You can see the improvements there by working with the M-line board. Good low point alignments. Super simple. Organizes a lot of things. Even, self-organizing delivery there. Perfect. Rope swings. I won't play with it. These are videos. Has anybody played around with the rope swings? Another self-organizing tool that I use a lot. Sequencing, good flow of the swing. you know, if you're not doing things correctly, you won't move that rope very successfully. You can even hit balls with it too. So I have a really good 12-year-old girl swinging the rope. I wish it would play. 3D launch monitors and motion capture systems. Some of the ones that I use. I love the Capto. We were talking about speed being super important in putting. Scott was, you know, really adamant about speed. I love these acceleration profiles. You know, the people that I see that three-putt the most have a really jacked up profile. So they're just, you know, short back strokes and long follow-throughs. So I really try to get them on a good curve on the Capto, and then they can go out and do the distance control drills and stuff once we kind of clean up the acceleration profile. For wedges, I love launch monitors, obviously, for launch windows and things I like to see with good wedge play, you know, inside of 80 yards. Here's the full swing, you know, obviously just to get dispersion and get the pattern, see what some that's like an assessment for wedges or whatever. You know, the new toy that we've been messing around with is a sports box, markerless 3D motion capture. Still messing with that. Don't know how accurate it is yet. We talked about that, but you know, there's a lot out there on the technology side. So this is my plan. It's common language. I can talk to my 9-year-old players about what deposits and withdrawals they've made. To my mini tour guys, I just had a guy go through Q school and he's talking to me about the banks and, you know, some of the things, some of the deposits he would love to have made before leading up to the event. And so every day it's monitoring banks, all 4, 1% better every day, very detailed, highly customizable, and it's just framework, and it's been working so far, and easy way for me to develop a plan for my players. Any questions? Pretty simple.
I got one.
Yes, sir.
So when you do your performance plans, how heavily do you weigh your emotional states? You said you don't do coping plans or mechanisms, things like that. You have simple resetting of the mind, I think is the way it was worded up there. How do you deal with, because I mean, I'm a coach as well as you are to collegiate players, it seems like the emotional struggles sometimes with what's going on in their life balance.
Absolutely, and that's the key, the balance. So if it's a club member, you know, they have a really bad business week or anything that they bring out to the golf course, so the life balance plays a lot into the emotional state. So if we're struggling, or even the college players are cramming for exams, they haven't slept that much, they're, you know, they missed a test or they bombed a test, and you see it in practice. I mean, you see the withdrawals. They're not in it. They're cutting practices short, or you start to see the withdrawals, and we tie it into the overall life balance. So it's just kind of goes hand in hand with what's going on in their lives. So
do you have tools, or you just go back to your performance plan and say?
No tools, just you know, talk to the player about what it is that might be affecting the performance and their emotional state, and it could be. I mean, what are some of the things that you deal with? I mean, it's, you know, what we see every day in the college world. I mean, so when that's in place, emotional states are good, mindsets are good. They're going through the plan and they're going through the processes of playing well. It just all ties in together. Yes, sir.
In terms of your strategy leading it into, say you have a club or a club player or a high-level junior club player who maybe doesn't have access to decade, what tools are you using maybe to help them prior to you seeing a golf course for the first time to help them game plan effectively?
Well, that's where the phrase win the practice round, and you just get out there and be very aware of what's happening, what the environment, what the course is like. You know, just really understand what it is that you're trying to do on the golf course. I mean, there's, you know, understand where the hazards are. You don't need decades of being on the golf course in a sense. I mean, just, you know, if there's dots on the greens, I mean, you can start to plan that way and just get out. You know, I would love to get out there as much as I can, as much as I do with my college players. But when we're walking out on the golf course, you know what we're looking at. Some of you college coaches out here, we're just, sometimes spending time on the golf course. Like I said, it's not always on the range. You can, you're here in San Antonio, you got kids playing STPJ events, go out and walk with them one day on a practice route and start helping them grasp some of these ideas and understand what they're doing. Yes, sir.
When you're in a practice round with your team, how many shots are they actually hitting?
Believe it or not, many times they put a cap on us. Like, don't hit more than one tee shot. But in a perfect world, what we want to do with the golf hole, we hit as many shots as we need to. That's a good question. I've seen us hit different wedge shots in the greens, a couple different approach shots, bunker shots, or understanding the bunkers, stuff like that. So multiple shots if you have to. Whatever it takes for you to win the practice round and get prepared. So, but oftentimes they limit you to one shot. That's kind of a little bit around some of the facilities. Yes, sir.
Rudy, how are you sharing your plans with the students?
That's a great question. I should have put it up here. Right now I'm using an app called Band, B-A-N-D. It's free, and it's kind of like a Facebook interface, if you want to call it that. And all the communication happens there. It's there's a board where you can post what you need. When I first come up with a plan for a player, I put it on there, explain to them what we talked about, and then there's also an instant chat feature on there. So there's constant communication. I just use Band for now. I like what I saw today from Clip. Maybe that's something in the future, but I use Band right now. It's pretty simple. And they're kind of used to it. It's a social media type deal, so they're all over it. Anything else?
When you're giving private instruction, it seems like juniors now have really short attention spans. Can you share with us how you approach those situations?
Yeah, I usually touch on all four banks. So we might go into the gym for a little bit and talk to the head fitness trainer, or we might go out on the course, and then we might go and do some technical work. So I kind of
Random, quick.
Yeah, it's tough to get them for an hour on one thing, for sure. I agree.
Can I add something maybe to when you were talking to your kids about playing to the fat of the green? Something I found that helped me on par threes was if the pin was on the left side of the green, I would tee off on the left side of the tee box, so maybe more at the center of the green instead of across at the truck that might be left of the green.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, we talk a lot about angles, tee shots as well, driver.
yeah.
Yeah,
Tee off on the side of the most trouble, that way you're hitting away from it.
with your shot shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. Yes, there's a lot of that. Yes, ma'am.
Do you do classes mainly, or just private lessons?
I do classes. I'll do some strategy classes where I'll take a group of people and explain some easy basics, concepts like to members and stuff. Yeah, classes are great. Definitely, yes. Good classes. Speed classes, I love getting groups together for sure. Well, sorry to, no science and no math, but good old fashioned game planning here. Thank you very much. Again, this is something that can be applied across the board, kids, normal club member, joint professionals. So definitely, thank you very much.